Have you ever fallen into a pain so deep you thought you could never rise again? A loss, a loneliness, or a wound that words could not describe. In such moments, perhaps you asked yourself, why must I endure all of this? Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh, revered across the world as a great teacher of mindfulness, offered us a simple yet profound answer: no mud, no lotus. It is precisely the mud of suffering that nourishes the seed of happiness. It is the darkness of despair that makes the light of hope shine brighter. Today, I invite you to step into a meditative journey. We shall sit together, breathing as one, and listen to the timeless teachings of Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh, to see that even in the depths of our suffering, a lotus is waiting to bloom within our hearts. When Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh said no mud, no lotus, he offered us an image that is simple yet profoundly deep. Mud is dark, wet, heavy, and unclean. Nobody wishes to touch mud. Nobody wants to be stained by it. And yet, it is precisely in the mud that the lotus begins its life. From the darkness, its roots sink deep, drawing nourishment, slowly rising toward the surface of the water. When the sunlight touches it, the lotus blossoms, pure, radiant, and fragrant, untouched by the mud it grew from. This is the metaphor they offered us. Suffering is not the enemy of happiness. It is the very soil from which happiness grows. Without challenges, losses, or wounds, we would never truly understand the value of love and peace. In Buddhism, the lotus is a symbol of wisdom and compassion. Mud represents ignorance, craving, anger, and delusion. The lotus represents awakening, love, and understanding. But the lotus cannot exist without the mud. Likewise, the path to enlightenment always begins with facing and transforming suffering. As they often reminded us, do not try to run away from suffering, for without mud, there is no lotus. Without suffering, there can be no happiness. Looking at the lotus, we see a beautiful paradox. From the lowest, darkest place arises the most pure and noble flower. And that is exactly what life reminds us of each day. Thich Nhat Hanh once shared, "Happiness is not a gift that falls from the blue sky. It must be nurtured through the very brokenness, the losses, the wounds we have endured. Think of your own life. Perhaps each of us has walked through a muddy field. Unemployment, heartbreak, the loss of a loved one, or a loneliness so deep no one seemed to understand. Yet looking back, we realize that these experiences made us deeper, more mature, and more grateful for moments of peace. Like the young man who once fell into despair after losing his job. But during that dark time, he rediscovered his passion for painting and later became an artist. Without the mud of suffering, how could he have found the lotus of a new happiness? Or the young woman who went through a painful breakup. At first, her heart seemed to fall into an abyss, and life felt meaningless. But after many nights of tears, she learned to sit quietly, breathe, and look deeply into her pain. She realized that without that suffering, she would never have understood true love, nor learned to cherish herself. From the mud of loss, she emerged with new confidence and peace, like a lotus blooming out of darkness. There was also a middle-aged man who suddenly discovered he had a serious illness. His months of treatment were filled with fear and exhaustion. Yet instead of blaming life, he chose to see his illness as a bell of awakening. He began spending more time with his family, smiling at each simple meal, feeling grateful for each breeze and ray of sunlight. He said, "If not for this illness, I would never have learned to live so deeply." That too is a lotus blossoming from the mud of suffering. Looking back at these stories, we see clearly suffering is never meaningless. It is the fertile ground for growth, and this is exactly what the Buddha discovered more than 2,500 years ago when he awakened under the Bodhi tree. He taught the Four Noble Truths. 1. Suffering. Life contains suffering, birth, aging, sickness, death, being separated from what we love, being forced to live with what we hate, wishing but not receiving. No one can escape it. 2. The cause of suffering. Suffering does not arise randomly. It comes from ignorance, craving, attachment, and endless desire. 3. The end of suffering. By understanding its cause, we can be free. Just as when we recognize an illness, we can find the right medicine. 4. The path. The Noble Eightfold Path. Right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Thich Nhat Hanh often emphasized, "Do not run away from suffering. If you can embrace and look deeply into it, you will discover the path to understanding, to love, and to happiness." Like mud and lotus, mud is not bad. When transformed, it nourishes the lotus. Suffering, too, when embraced with mindfulness, becomes the very material that allows wisdom and compassion to bloom. Zen master Thich Nhat Hanh did not speak of mud and lotus as a mere metaphor. His entire life was a living testimony. He was born during a time of war, witnessing countless losses, separations, and bombings. He was exiled from his homeland for decades, far from his monasteries, his country, and his beloved students. Those years were the mud of suffering. Yet instead of letting it drown him, he transformed that mud into wisdom, turning exile into an opportunity to bring mindfulness to the world. We see Thay walking slowly, breathing deeply, smiling gently. That smile is not the smile of someone who has never suffered, but of one who has embraced suffering, transformed it, and blossomed into a lotus of peace. In one of his talks, Thay said, "Look deeply into your own suffering and you will see the path of love. Look deeply into the suffering of others and you will open the door of compassion." This is the profound meaning of "no mud, no lotus. Mud is suffering, lotus is happiness, and the lotus never blooms only for itself. It shares its fragrance with all beings. In the same way, when we transform suffering, our happiness nourishes not only us, but also our family, our friends, and society at large. Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh not only left us profound teachings, but also simple practices that anyone can follow. These are the ways we can embrace the mud of suffering and allow the lotus of happiness to bloom each day. First, mindful breathing. They often said, breathing in, I know I am breathing in. Breathing out, I know I am breathing out. Simply by returning to our breath, we return to ourselves. When anger or sadness arises, if we pause, breathe in deeply, breathe out slowly, we will not be swept away. In that very moment, we are already turning mud into lotus. Second, walking meditation. They walked with slow, deliberate steps, as if each footstep kissed the earth. He taught, each step is a miracle. When we walk mindfully, every step becomes healing. Our sorrow begins to dissolve with each footprint, replaced by peace. Third, smiling to our pain. Some may ask, how can I smile when I am suffering? But Thay reminded us, the smile is not to hide the pain, but to embrace it. That smile is gentle, like a mother cradling her crying child. When we smile to our pain, we are no longer its victim. We are transforming it into nourishment for growth. Fourth, deep listening. They called it deep listening. When another is suffering, what they need is not advice, but a compassionate heart that listens without judgment. By listening with compassion, we help lighten their burden. And in the process, we too are learning to embrace our own mud, allowing the lotus of love to bloom. Each of these practices is so simple that even a child can do them, yet so profound that they can save a life. As they said, happiness is not something far away. It can be found in your breath, in your steps, in your smile. And when we live this way, we truly understand. No mud, no lotus. Perhaps nowhere is the teaching clearer than in Thich Nhat Hanh's own life. He endured war, exile, and profound loss. Yet instead of resentment, he chose transformation. With mindful breathing, peaceful steps, and a gentle smile, he nourished millions around the world. The image of Thay walking calmly, eyes bright with kindness, smile serene. That is a lotus in full bloom. And like a lotus, his peace and wisdom spread fragrance far beyond his homeland, becoming an inspiration across the globe. They has shown us that mud is nothing to fear. From mud, the lotus blooms. From suffering, the door of love opens. And now, the question for each of us is, where is the lotus in your heart? What mud of suffering are you living in? And are you ready to tend it, nurture it, so that one day a lotus may bloom, pure, radiant, and free? Sit quietly. Take a deep breath. Look into your pain and smile. For in this very moment, You have already begun the journey of turning mud into lotus.